Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. It is Alex here with you as your host. I got Steve as co-host, and we have a special second co-host here. Dave Earl is joining us, mostly because I didn't know if I'd make it back from New York City in time to actually do the show.
I bet you're glad you made it back, weren't you?
Yeah, aren't I so happy? I don't know what is worse, driving down 95 or watching that football game, getting our butts kicked by the Cowboys, because both are painful in different ways.
Welcome, Dave, though.
Yeah, welcome, Dave. Dave knows. Dave lives off of 95. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, I live right off of 95, and especially this time of year, it's never a good time to get on it.
No,
Never.
there's no good time.
Many hours on I-95 myself.
Yeah. But you're out west now, so you haven't probably been on 95 in a few years. I hope.
No, I have not, but the traffic in Houston can be awful at times as well, so I understand.
Sure. Well, that was a weird game, guys. I don't know what to make. It felt like it was over. Then for a split second, it's like, hey, here's a glimmer of hope, and then you just got punched in the balls. That's what it was. That sums up what happened in this game really quickly. Holcomb gets that pick six, and you're like, hey, we're down 7 points. I don't know what's going on with our kicking unit. Like, how many blocks is that this year? 6?
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then we get another turnover, and it's just, you guys got to help me make sense of this, because I really don't know.
Here, first of all, let me read the numbers, because I want to make a numbers argument here.
Okay.
In part.
Go ahead.
So here's the numbers. Taylor Heineke was 11 for 25, 122 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 4 times, and his quarterback rating is 55.8. Kyle Allen in relief was 4 of 9 for 53 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 67.3. As a team, they were 15 for 34 for 124 yards, which is low 40s in completion percentage. Rushing wise, as a team, they were 23 for 100, but don't let that fool you. Antonio Gibson was 10 for 36 for 3.6 yards per attempt. Jared Patterson came on in garbage time. This is where the yardage came from. 4 for 29. Jonathan Williams 4 for 16. Kyle Allen 2 for 11, Taylor Heineke 3 for 8. Cam Sims was the leading receiver on the day, believe it or not. 3 for 69, 1 touchdown on 4 targets. Adam Humphries 4 for 34, which sadly is one of his better games. Jonathan Williams 1 for 19. John Bates 1 for 19. DeAndre Carter 2 for 12. And I don't feel like reading all the rest of these. Terry McLaurin was 0 for 0 for 4 targets and an injury, and we'll get to that. Yeah. And on Dallas' side, Dak Prescott was 22 for 39, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 58.8. He was sacked 4 times. Ezekiel Elliott was 12 for 45, 3.8 yards per attempt. And Corey Clemens was 13 for 44 yards. Receiving wise, CeeDee Lamb 7 for 61, Michael Gallup 5 for 60, Murray Cooper 5 for 51. It goes down from there. And then the fumbles: Taylor Heineke 1 fumble, 1 loss. Kyle Allen 1 fumble, 1 loss. Antonio Gibson 1 fumble, 1 loss. We'll get to that. Sacks: it was Jonathan Allen with 1, Deron Payne with 1, Landon Collins with 2, and then the leading tackles are Cole Holcomb and Cam Curl. And on Dallas' side, the sacks were 2 on Micah Parsons, 1 with Neville Gallimore, and 1 with Randy Gregory, and I'm missing 1 in here somewhere. No, that was 5. Okay. Now, since obviously Tressway outpunted the offense, we know that.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to insult your intelligence by asking it, but what I am going to ask: did he double the offensive output? There's the question. Much better question. Did Tressway double the offensive output?
I say no.
I would say no. But Tressway did outkick the Cowboys offense in just the first half alone by like 10 yards or something like that, I think.
Yeah, well, that is. Let me see here. You're saying Tressway by halftime?
By halftime, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't actually track that. So
I was actually tracking that because I kind of figured we would have gotten the Tressway thing today.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. So, but Tressway as it turns out, did not double the Washington's offensive output, but he came fairly close, 7 for 356 yards, whereas Washington's total offensive output, which got dramatically better in the second half, ended up being 224 net yards. So,
Yeah,
there you
that
go.
is close. That's closer than you ever want.
Well, it was looking really bad there for a while.
Yeah.
I actually did what I normally don't do and put a tweet out about it because it was a pretty cool stat, and because I was wondering how bad this game was going to get there toward the end of the first half, and so after the halftime, I did some digging in our stat service and found that the lowest total net yardage in the game by Washington in the past 20 years was in 2018 against the Eagles when they had 89 total yards. So I was wondering for a while, were they going to break that? And then that
Mhm.
was right when they had their one long drive. So anyway,
Sure.
that's numbers. So look, um, it seems to me that sort of the tone and tenor of the fan base, and sounds like even Alex, is that Alex and Dave both, the defense was good enough to win, or offense sucked. Look, Dallas's offense didn't ever have to do much. Okay, I mean, they were ahead from day one, from moment one, practically.
Sure.
They were down Tony Pollard in the first place. It wasn't like they were playing with a sense of urgency ever. So I wouldn't give our defense a whole heck of a lot of credit in this, but certainly the offense looked far more pathetic than our defense. But I just don't think it's really fair to say, oh, our defense was good enough to win in a game like this when Dallas was really trying to run out the clock almost from the second quarter.
I mean, look, I don't think the defense was good enough to win. I think the defense kind of just held their own a little bit, but my problem with the offense is they looked clueless from the start. I think that first half, honestly, one of the most embarrassing halves of football we've seen from Washington in probably 15 or 20 years. Some people mentioned the Kansas City game or the Monday Night Massacre. Uh, at least on that Monday night game versus Philly, we scored 14 points in the first half.
They've
You
been
know,
shut out many times in the first half, though.
yeah, yeah. This was as embarrassing of a first half of football as I think we've ever seen from Washington. They seemed totally unprepared. They got rolled offensively and defensively in that first half. It was just embarrassing, flat out.
Yeah, I don't know where I would rank it. I'd have to think about it and do some stats research, but certainly it was one of their. Certainly
I
it
mean,
was
those
an
two
embarrassing
other games are
performance.
probably the only ones you could even contend it with.
I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not willing to say that when
Yeah.
we've had so many awful performances over the years. I mean, I'd have to check. But your overall point of this being an embarrassing first half, I'm totally down with that for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
What do you think,
but
Dave? Where would you put it? Steve is in the analytical. You seem a little more like you go by your emotions. Where do you put it?
I have no
Well,
emotions.
if we're talking just about that first half alone, I'll be honest with you. I don't even recall a first half being disjointed.
Mm,
Unorganized on offense. We did take advantage of some miscues by Dallas on their offense. We got that turnover from Collins, but only for offense to give it right back again immediately afterwards.
right.
Now, granted, I think after the first half, I think Dallas was like 5 of 9 on third downs, but a lot of them were third and shorts, like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah. Yeah.
came up, and I don't think they can. I don't think Dallas converted 3rd and long all game long, which was an Achilles heel of ours early in the year. I think we got adequate pressure on Prescott throughout the game. I think our secondary, although at times gave up, I think like 3 20+ yard plays in the
Mm-hmm.
first half. Overall, I thought they did a pretty decent job against this three wide receivers of Dallas that, quite honestly, are probably the better three receiver sets in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
In Cooper, Lamb, and Gallup. So
Yeah, it
um,
definitely goes up against maybe Tampa and a few other top elite receiving groups.
yeah, I mean, there was only so much the secondary was going to do against that core.
Sure.
There was only so much that they were going to do against his offensive line. Was starting to get healthy again, having Jones coming back in this game. But it's I guess you're right. I guess you can't give it too much credit in terms of they played well enough to win the game. But I thought they did as they have been in the last few weeks, stopping them on third and longs, creating some turnovers and so forth. But
I mean, I don't think this is a game Dallas is going to write home about in terms of their offensive production. No, but I just don't think it's fair for anybody out there to say, "Oh, the defense, played well enough to win," and this and that. And I think that's just silly, in a game like this. Just real quick, so injuries before I forget: Taylor Heineke's injury. Ron Rivera at the presser, which is going on like right now, said that his knee injury, quote, doesn't look like that bad, was his quote. He's got a weird grammatical error in there, but regardless, what he's saying is it doesn't look like a terrible. So that's good.
Ron Rivera's too California sometimes for Steve. He had the like in there. Just
it's like, for God's sakes, let's speak proper English, okay?
It doesn't look like that bad.
Charles Leno went out and came back. Terry McLaurin is the big on concussion, or at least he was being evaluated for a concussion protocol. He never came back. So Daniel Wise went out. Safety McCain went out. Tyler Larson got carted off. Looked like a lower leg thing. And that was all I caught. But I believe Matt Ioannidis went out and came back for a while. So he's another one.
I jotted down that we were now on to our third quarterback, fifth center, and fourth running back.
I think it's just the fourth center. Not the
Is it still the fourth? Because it seems like they've gone back and forth.
Because they started with Chase Reyes on IR.
Right.
Schweitzer played center. He's on IR.
Right.
And then
Keith Ishmael.
Tyler Larson, and then Keith Ishmael has played twice. So we've been down to Keith Ishmael. We've been down to the fourth stringer on two separate occasions. Got
it.
Yeah.
So we played a little accordion between 3 and 4 is what it sounds like.
That's correct. So I want to start off talking about the offense here, because I think what I saw was that the fundamental problem with today's game is the offensive line sucked donkey balls, basically. I mean, there was a ton of pressure on the quarterback, and I'll get to Heineke in a minute because I do have things to say about him, but he was under pressure all day long. Kyle Allen was under pressure when he was in there. There were no rushing lanes until garbage time. And granted, I mean, Antonio Gibson is sort of, Mr. under 4 yards per carry on a permanent basis. And he repeated that today. But the fundamental problem with the offense was that the offensive line just stunk. And that, is sort of the genesis of all the problems. And then you throw in the injury to Terry McLaurin, and you got a bunch of dreck, basically, at wide receiver. I mean, it's no wonder this game went south with the offensive line playing that badly.
Dave, what do you think?
I repeat the same sentiment on the offensive line. Heineke had 0 time whatsoever, which was a bit frustrating. And even when he had the time, which is rare, he would still have a tendency of throwing high. He missed. He underthrew McLaurin, which caused him to have to come up and high point the ball, come down, and get that injury right there. If he would have just at least put it out in front, he had a better chance. It's the offensive line against his Dallas front was definitely overmatched all game long. And you saw just how good this Dallas front is. Now they had with Gregory and Lawrence back, they were able to use Micah Parsons as they felt the need to use him. But yeah, we were definitely overmatched up front.
Yeah, and that's a fundamental root of the problem is being overmatched up front. But Taylor Heineke did not handle it well. He made bad decisions. He, once again threw off his, back foot a couple times. He threw into coverage he threw into triple coverage a couple times. Got really, really lucky. That he almost threw 2 interceptions in a row in the first half. I thought he was pressing way too hard when they got down. I mean, as an overall performance, I think this was probably his worst game.
I think the moment kind of overwhelmed him a little bit.
Yes. I think he totally got overwhelmed by the moment and trying to make a play, didn't know what to do, made bad decisions, made poor reads, didn't help anything.
In fact, speaking of poor reading, go back to that throw down to McLaurin down the sidelines. So he rolled out in 3rd and 5. He had Carter and I believe Bates open for easy first down right there underneath.
Right.
And it was, why go deep right there? You don't really need to.
Anytime
He's
he's
trying to
pointing,
force a play he didn't have to make.
yeah, and he's telling McLaurin to abandon his route and just run deep, like it's
Right.
like it's 7th grade backyard football or something.
And like Taylor can throw a 50-yard completion there. On the money.
Yeah, I mean he's not
that's not what he does.
I mean he's not Aaron Rodgers.
No. I think there were a couple things that stood out to me with the offensive issues. One, I think, Steve, you and I have talked about the line the last couple of weeks. Despite their record, these last few weeks, the line has not been good. They've been bailed out by the fact that versus lesser pass rushes, Heineke's been able to keep, scrambling and make a couple extra plays here and there, even though he's also been off a lot. Last week, he was thrown high most of the game, but he got bailed out too. It seems like a lot of things that have been problems these last 3 games kind of came home to roost for them in those 2 regards. Their edge blockers, their left tackle and their right tackle, aren't very good. They're maybe league average at best. Ever since Cosme went down, I think we've seen a pretty big drop off at right tackcle overall.
I don't think Cosme's anything to write home about either, to be honest.
No, but at least he's a rookie. He's raw, and he was developing. And you saw things from him that you're like, there's stuff he could have built off of.
They have average tackles at best. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah, no question. And then you add the injuries to the interior along with that. It hasn't helped.
That, and I don't think Brandon Scherf has been up to his all-pro self all year long.
No, he's been slowly declining. As he got older.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just having a bad season. Who knows? But I do know one thing: he's not worth $18 million a year, and that's what he's going to demand.
No, he ain't worth half that right now.
Well, the
you can see with guys like Flowers, we can just about find a guard almost anywhere. You can find a failing tackle, bring him and kick him to the inside. We did to Flowers, or you can find someone in the later rounds just to drop right in there.
Yeah. Good tackles.
You make it sound so easy, Dave. I mean,
no, you kind of see it often enough.
You just speak it into existence. We can find a guard.
Well, I think just so you don't draft Wes Martin, you'll be all right.
Yeah. Just think about what's happened on the left side of Washington's interior offensive line for years. A string of like Gorick out there, basically.
I mean, Wes Schweitzer's been good when he didn't get hurt.
Look, Wes Schweitzer is not that good. Okay, Wes Schweitzer is Washington fan base good. He's average at best. He's not anything special at all. None of these guys. Chase Rouillet, I think, is special a little bit. He's above average. And I'd still say Brandon Scherf's probably above average, but even though by his standards he's been a lot less. But the rest of them are average at most.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jags on this line.
Yes.
And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I mean, hopefully Terry's not seriously hurt.
Well, concussion. I mean, I know I've explained this before, but for the benefits of the new people here, so the Air Force. I'm thinking about my previous life. The NFL's concussion protocol. We're assuming he has one. They haven't even said he has one, but if he does, what has to happen is you have to get cleared by an independent doctor, meaning not the team doctor, to go back to practice. Then you practice, then you get cleared by the same independent doctor again for a game. And so it's very difficult for these guys to come back in a week, because you go on Monday and they go, yes, you have a concussion, and then you come back like out Wednesday. And if you're really lucky and you're a really fast healer, then they say you can practice, and you got to go practice. And, it's a late week game time thing. So more often than not, you miss a game.
Yeah.
But look, Terry McLaurin, I wanted to say this, though. This is the second time this year that I've seen Terry McLaurin get dominated by a corner. Terry McLaurin got dominated by Trevon Diggs.
Sure.
And I'm not just talking about, didn't Diggs have an interception? That's why I was hesitating. No. He did not. But, I'm just in press man coverage. Blanketed Terry McLaurin all day. McLaurin didn't look like he was ever really open that I saw. This is the second time that's happened this year that McLaurin has just looked like you are the lesser player, and I didn't really expect that coming from him today.
I mean, look, I think that's fair. He didn't, obviously, when he gets shut out and everything, that you can criticize how he played. I mean, I think McLaurin, for all our talk, I think he's a number one receiver. I don't think he's a top 3 receiver in the league yet.
Oh, I do. I mean, aside from today, I mean, I don't know. There's almost nobody that can run routes better than Terry McLaurin and he creates separation like a 10-year vet. And he did from day one. I mean, and he's got the speed. This dude is, talent wise, he's top 10. He's just victimized
He's top
by,
10, but he's not top 3.
I mean, you'd have to think
is
about
he
it.
DeAndre Hopkins? Or,
Yes.
Yes. I don't know
he's
if he
on
is,
a terrible. He's had horrible quarterbacking since he's been here. Taylor's probably the best quarterback he's had. I mean, he doesn't have anybody around him that can attract attention at all. I think if you put Terry McLaurin on a team that's good, like the Packers or somewhere, he would be leading the NFL. I think he's that good in terms of his abilities as a receiver. It's just kind of wasted with Washington's offense. That's what I think.
Now,
if you just study his route running, he's amazing at creating space. He does that. He's has like an inherent knack for doing that just cannot be taught. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Now, I mean, is it possible that Terry McLaurin right now is even starting to press himself right now because the last 3-4 weeks he's been facing bracket coverage over top every single game. He's had at least 2-3 people over him every time. So it's just it's tough to shake coverage like that. And maybe he's at a point where he's maybe even overthinking his own routes, trying to figure out a way to come out over top, to come open for his quarterback. But it also doesn't help that he has a quarterback that continuously throws the ball high and throws the ball under, throws it short and so forth. It's just there's a lot to it. I agree that he's definitely top 10. I wouldn't put him say top 3. But I think he's well on his way on getting into the top 5 without a doubt after this year, just by his route running, like you say, Steve, and so forth. And, just his football acumen as well, too. His hands are ridiculous. We all know that, but I think right now what keeps him out of the top 5 has to be because of his quarterback play. Yes, I agree with that. But
think about the talent around him, though. I mean, he's playing with Adam Humphries, and I mean, I'm as big a Cam Sims fan as there is, but nobody cares about Cam Sims in terms of defense.
Right.
Maybe
Curtis
they
Samuel's
should.
Been nowhere near. No,
Curtis Samuel's hadn't been on the field, period. And and so it's just he's playing with a bunch of low-end talent receivers. With apologies to Sims, who proved himself today, but you get my point.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
Substitute Amari Cooper for Terry McLaurin on Dallas.
I think McLaurin outshines what Cooper would have done over there. No doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not saying he's bad or he's even a number 2. I'm just saying I don't think he's in that all-star. Like, if you were to say who are the top 3, I don't think he makes that conversation still.
I think he might. I mean, by pure talent, not by production, but I think the production in large part hasn't been his fault. But just by talent, like in terms of just raw talent as a receiver and his mind and his hands, I think he is that good. It's just not showing he has potential to be there.
They need more talent around him. There's no question about that, though. I mean, like the loss of Logan Thomas for the rest of the year, I think is really going to hurt him from here out. Without at least another guy to take some pressure off. And I know Logan Thomas was missing for a lot of games, but we saw the impact of that on him throughout the season.
I mean, I know I was the guy who like a month ago said, "Hey, Ricky Seals-Jones is basically, duplicating the Logan Thomas output."
He's not. Ricky Seals-Jones is doing what he can do, but he's not Logan Thomas.
I don't think I was right about when I said it. I mean, he was for a time coming close to the output, but he's nothing. He doesn't have Logan Thomas's presence on the field at all.
Right. See, production. There's a difference between production and presence. That's an interesting point there.
And we've come a long way with Logan Thomas, just as a side note, because a couple of years ago when they signed him, we were like, who's this guy?
Yeah, why is
you know what I mean?
What are you doing here? Yeah.
Well, the other, just for to note, by the way, Logan Thomas is the emergency quarterback, obviously.
He was, yeah.
Because he was an NFL quarterback, and for a point in time, they were down to Kyle Allen, and that was it. And I don't know if you guys can name another emergency quarterback on the roster. You know,
I don't think anyone else has ever played quarterback at any level that you,
not
other
that's
than
been
maybe high
reported. I
school.
mean, there may be some high school quarterbacks out there, I guess, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
honestly don't know either.
Well, they
It's an
probably just
interesting.
resort to the Wildcat at that point.
I mean, but it's even like the mechanics of taking a snap.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Mhm.
that's not something that you can just. But so the point is, if Ron Rivera's wrong or he's just kind of softballing it, and Heineke actually is hurt, they're gonna have to bring Shermer up from the practice squad as a backup.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing we haven't talked about yet was the fact that they benched Gibson towards the end of this game here. I don't know if that was just a fact of they thought the game was kind of over at one point, and so why not? Or was it the fumble? But that Gibson's fumble problem is becoming a serious thing here.
Well, that and you throw in the fact that he had 10 carries for 36 yards and he
Yeah.
had one long 13-yard run, so that means he was 9 for 23,
Right.
which is not
Right.
even 3 yards a carry. And sad to say, his season yards per carry is already under 4, and that's not including today. It was at 3.9, I believe, last week. It's
Mhm.
going to go down to 3.8, or so, 3.8, 3.7 this week. That's just not flat out not good enough. And yeah,
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
I think, and you throw in the fumbles. Yeah, he's been a workhorse. He's got a lot of carries, but what's being produced? It's kind of like driving your beat up Chevy Nova for 250 miles,
Right.
250,000 miles. I mean, yeah, great, but it's not exactly efficient.
You got to wonder if that shin is still somewhat bothering him because last year he was explosive through the holes. Now,
Mhm.
granted, he was still learning to be a running back. He wasn't hitting the holes as he should have, like you pointed out many times last year, but he was still developing.
Right.
But I mean, he's an explosive runner. When he puts his pads down, he does pretty well. You get him to the outside, and he's just not showing that same quickness like he did last year. And I gotta wonder if the shin's got anything to do with it, because I know even getting simple shin splints, from working out and so forth. I mean, even that, is a burden to do
Oh, it slows you
anything in
down,
terms of.
no question.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've got the shin splints thing too. It ain't fun.
no,
okay.
That
So going into this game, Gibson was at 5 fumbles, which led the NFL for running backs. So a bunch of quarterbacks had more fumbles,
sure.
but
is that
running
5 fumbles
backs,
lost or just 5 total
um,
I think that's lost.
lost. That's
lost?
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there and like Devin Singletary was up there with him. Taylor Heineke's up there with him. But it's him and Singletary, and I don't know what Singletary did today, but Gibson had another one today, so that puts him
Yeah,
at
he
6.
technically leads the league right now.
Yeah, right, for a
Yeah.
running back, because like
Mhm.
Kyler Murray's leading the league, and Kyler Murray and Fields and Goff and they're all
Right.
quarterbacks. But anyway,
Right.
so I mean, I think you would have a better argument for keeping him on the field more if he was producing a ton of yards per carry, which he's not. So you have a underperforming, barely better than Peyton Barber, and he's fumbling. I
Mhm.
mean, no wonder, no wonder Jarrett Patterson and Jonathan Williams got on the field.
Yeah, I think there's something to it. And look, we've seen good running backs come back from that before. I always think of Tiki Barber, who kind of went through the same thing early in his career, where he had a big fumble problem, and they had to teach him how to like a different way to carry the football so he wouldn't fumble. And I think Gibson's gonna have to go through that same thing where he has to learn you keep two hands on it or something. I don't know what, but because I'm not a running backs coach, I'm not Jennifer King. So somebody has to basically duct tape a football to his hands for a week and teach him how to carry a football.
We may need to try to get Ernest Biner back on the show to talk about him. I'll work on
Yeah,
that.
that would not be a bad idea.
I'll text him or something and see if he will come on.
Sure.
He's a bit hard to get hold of, so no promises on that.
No. I think we all know he's elusive.
Yes. Yes.
That was a pun, by the way.
What else on offense? So yeah, I mean, I think like I said, fundamentally the problem is offensive line.
The
But
whole team's just beat up too. I think that's the overall thing with this offensive performance.
yeah, it is. But I mean, again, Curtis Samuel,
Mm-hmm.
no
Do something.
receptions,
Hasn't played
2
at all.
targets. Do anything.
Yeah.
Do something.
I feel like
anything.
the emoji of a guy poking a dead body here. Do something.
De'Ami Brown, what was he? A 2nd-round pick? 3rd-round pick?
Third.
1 target, no receptions. I've said
Nice
before.
fall. Nice. How did the grass taste? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I
After
said
he tripped
before.
over that blade of grass.
Yeah.
I said before. I mean, he's going to take time. I didn't think he was going to come out immediately just because of his college film, but do something, anything.
Right.
Cam Sims is truly the only other one guy other than like a gadget guy like Carter is a bit of a
Mhm.
gadget guy. But him and Cam Sims, Adam Humphries is wholly average.
Right.
I mean, there's just, you take away Terry McLaurin and it's it's like a toxic waste disaster zone.
I mean, Humphreys was brought in to be the average, though, right? Like that's the point. Is he was brought in to be your number 4. Like worst case, somebody has to beat him, like
Never
and be
forget
better
that
than
Ron
him.
Rivera tried to sign Amari Cooper. He
Yeah,
knows that they need talent. They just
I
were
know.
unable to sign him.
I know.
He's the
I
only
think
one that Rivera made an honest effort to give a huge contract to was Amari Cooper.
in
And you
terms of
might see
elite
that in
talent,
Gallup
yeah.
come next year.
Yeah.
What's that?
You might see that in Gallup come next year because there's no way Dallas can afford him. And I wouldn't mind him opposite of McLaurin, to be honest. So,
It'd be an
Somebody.
upgrade.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Call me, Ron. I'll suit up.
Yeah.
Try and get my game back together.
I know we're already, gonna be over, but do you
Oh,
want
who cares?
what stood out to you
What
guys
is
on
that? Was
defense?
Spotify going to cut us off?
Yeah, Spotify. Spotify's gonna cut us off. That's
iTunes.
what's gonna happen, guys. What stood out to you guys on the defensive side? I mean, like, look, we lost the game. No one's happy, but like nothing stood out to me on defense other than the lack of pass rush as like a problem off the bat.
Well, I think this is the first game where we actually missed our defensive ends, our
Mhm.
bookends, and Sweat and Chase.
Sure.
I mean, we were getting a lot of push up the middle. We were just getting nothing collapsing down from the outside. I mean, you had Dak Prescott, I think, on 3 occasions, bootleg out wide open.
Yeah.
Drop at least two passes down for first downs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what happens when you get to the likes of practice squad guys who are getting like starters minutes because of all the injuries.
Right.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily think. I mean, certainly, Chase especially was not living up to his reputation and his expectations this year at all. But I mean, the man is still, better than Bunmi Rotimi, for God's sakes.
Right.
And I don't mean that as a slight to Rotimi. I mean, there's a slew of those guys, that are playing today. So, yeah. Now, can I just say, we said this on the game preview show, but I think we proved it today. Micah Parsons, 1, is better than Chase Young, and
Yes.
2 is what Washington fans expected Chase to be, but isn't.
I think
fair?
that's fair.
That's fair.
That dude is a beast, man. Have you seen him? He's all over the place. He
Mhm.
Well,
lines
they
up
were making
everywhere.
continuous comparisons to him and Lawrence Taylor's rookie year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I mean, you could put that man anywhere on the field. You put him
Mhm.
as a defensive end, an
They
inside
do put him
linebacker.
everywhere on the field, and he was dropping back into deep coverage.
Yep.
Chase has looked terrible in coverage when he's been in coverage.
Well, so I think here the difference is that one is a true defensive lineman and the other is a true linebacker. Where the problem is Chase plays like a linebacker at defensive end. You always see him in a 2-point stance. He's even though I know he's got the size of a linebacker or a defensive end, he looks lean. He looks like he should be playing outside linebacker.
He looks like Julius Peppers in his early days, but he doesn't play like Julius Pepper.
Right. And he's slower. Flat out, like he doesn't have that speed.
I think he has a lot of burst off the line in the first 5 yards.
Right, but he doesn't have Parsons' overall speed.
Oh no, Micah Parsons runs a sub 4.40, and
Right.
I mean,
right,
and
right.
Chase didn't run a 40 at the combine, but I mean, he was timed up in like the 4.8 range, 4.7,
Right,
4.8 range
exactly.
in early days in Ohio State. So even if he improved, which he
He'd
probably
probably
did,
be a 4.6 at
yeah,
best.
right. He's not a track guy at all. No.
No.
I just think he's got a very like a lightning fast first step for being a big guy. I think that's just
the irony is, I think when Young had his best stuff this year, it was when they would move him around a bit more. I remember him lining up basically as a middle linebacker on a rush or two and doing well. I think there's a lack of creativity from the coaching staff when it comes to doing things like that in general.
yes.
This staff has been slow to move guys around. Landon Collins, it's been a year and a half and then you figure out he should play linebacker? Come on. I could have told you that within 2 weeks of you getting here.
There was a certain Hogsty writer who did a film study based on Landon Collins' Giants film when they
Right.
signed him and concluded that he should be a linebacker.
Right.
I don't know who that was, but somebody who wrote for the Hogsty said that.
Yeah, he had an S as a first name, but
Yes.
that could be anybody.
Correct.
Sean Conti by chance?
No, it's definitely not Sean Conti. If you're listening, Sean.
Hey, Sean, if you're listening.
I don't know what to say. If you're listening, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But that's the point. Like, I think this Dallas coaching staff's been a lot more creative defensively than what Washington does, which is annoying when you consider that Washington's got two supposedly very good defensive coaches as their number 1 and number 2 guys.
I think it's pretty ironic that they have. It's pretty ironic that they have 2 linebackers as a coach and they have horrible linebackers.
Yes, there's some irony there.
That's ironic.
Yeah, full of irons.
Well, honestly, I'm not too surprised because Dan Quinn out in Seattle, he was the epitome of creativity on defense. You look at what he developed out there, what he put together, and how those guys thrived under him, and that's what you're seeing now with the bookends that they have, and Gregory and Lawrence that came together finally with Parsons today. And now it's just like what they said on the show, is that they're not moving Parsons out of necessity because of the injuries and the lack of presence of the other 2 guys. Now it's, where do I want to put him at today?
Yeah.
Well, and Dallas has been willing to take chances on a bunch of character guys like Randy Gregory, human sleaze, right? He's human sludge. And Micah Parsons has had character questions. I don't remember what his deal, but he's had ugly character questions.
It was a rookie hazing incident.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was more
a
than
hazing thing. It was a little. I don't want to say sexual in nature, but it involved genitalia and some. I don't remember the details
it was something
anymore.
Kind of ugly, right?
Yeah.
And those 2 aren't the only ones. There's more, and so Dallas is just more willing.
Dallas had a guy who murdered a friend in a drunk driving accident or something, didn't they? Like
so did Washington. At one point, Washington had a wide receiver.
Yeah, but that was after he served his time. Dallas kept him on the roster after he did it.
Randy Gregory is a terrible human being.
Oh yeah. Dallas also had Michael Irving, who stabbed a teammate at one point.
While his face was full of coke.
Yes.
Probably.
Right. And hookers.
Yeah, coke and hookers. Anyway, so I agree with you, Dave, in that they're much more creative about how they use these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But look, Jamin Davis, he's had fleeting moments here and there, but he hasn't looked like a first-round draft pick for the most part all year.
No.
Again, he's had moments, but what can you say? They overdrafted him. This team somehow all has a ton of holes that they're going to have to address, and I don't know how they do that.
Luckily they have money. The thing that's been making the rounds on social media is that Washington's in the top group of teams in terms of cap space next year. So we have that. We have like $61 million to play with, so that's fun.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
Waste that money on Sheriff, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't deal or.
Look, I'm not going to write another piece this offseason about what it would take to sign Brandon Scherff.
Right.
I think
you've done it 3 years now.
Well, yeah, it's like at some point I got to stop writing those columns. But the other thing is, Scherff just isn't worth a huge deal like that. Just not. All the games he's missed. I would have signed a deal like that with him 2 years ago. Yeah, absolutely, but not now. I hate to say it, but unless he's willing to compromise and give him a short, like 2-year deal or something they can get out of in 2 years, maybe.
Right.
I would do that, but beyond that, I wouldn't be locked into him.
I would be even afraid to do a tag and trade with him. Like I don't want to hold him on a tag.
Right. Well, especially you got Payne coming up for a renegotiation next year. You have Settle. To be honest with you, I really don't want to see Settle go. We can keep him at a really good, decent deal. And then I believe Ian Nice is coming to a final year of his deal, right?
If you want,
that's going to add some intrigue there.
If you want to have the details of what Dave is talking about, I did a real deep, even for me, deep dive into the future of the defensive line from a contractual standpoint this offseason. It is out there somewhere. I've written so many columns I can't keep track of them anymore. but somewhere out there, I did went out 5 years to figure out how to sign all those guys, and so all that's out there.
Right. I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. You're where I'm at. You were where I was at initially, where it's if you can keep 3 of the 5 good players we have on the defensive line, that's probably pretty good, right? Like it's
Well,
going to be tough to keep more than that.
It wasn't really that. My piece was contractually what's going to happen. I wasn't
Right.
really making conclusions about it, and it was obvious that John Allen had to go first.
Right.
Just because his contract was up sooner.
And luckily that's worked out well for them right now.
Yeah, he had another sack today, so I believe that's 7 on the season, which is a ton for an interior defensive lineman.
He's had a great season. Steve, I know you're not local. Well, neither of you guys are local, but like he was giving away tickets to this game throughout the week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like he's kind of stepped into that role pretty heavily. So that,
he's a high character guy.
Yeah, he's a high character guy. I think he is like a true core team guy growing up here. Like he's actually lived up to that, which a lot of guys don't, who, you draft locally, that kind of thing. So, that I think
Che Ungye to
yeah,
throw a little
or
big Latin out there.
Haskins, somebody, I don't know.
Haskins, Wayne Day,
who actually grew up in New Jersey, but we pretended for a few years.
Well, he did go to the same high school as Dan Snyder's kid. I mean,
yeah, for like local. A year or something. Like he moved here or something. It was weird.
I saw so much promise in him too, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I've said before that Washington could write a book on how to ruin a quarterback and use him as an example. Right. I mean, it's not all Dwayne Haskins' fault. And despite what our idiots in our comment section will say, it is not all Dwayne Haskins' fault. And you guys are morons if you think that. But anyway, back to this. So this game, I guess the one good thing that came out of it was they held Dallas's run game in check, which might have been because Tony Pollard wasn't there. But Zeke Elliott didn't even have 4 yards of carry, so that's good. What I was trying to add up before we came on the air here, so Dallas had 14 drives. We'll say 13 because the last drive was just a clock play. So 13 drives, they scored on 5 of them. Granted, only 1 touchdown, but Washington still let them score on 5 of those drives, and then they gave a touchdown back. With Cole Holcomb's pick 6 interception. Mm-hmm. So they really netted 13 points on offense. So Washington certainly did, with a competent offense, they could have won this game. But I still say again that Dallas's offense didn't look like they were really pressing all the entire day.
No, but I'm with you. I think if Washington put up a fight, they still would have lost. So
yes, I do too.
Well, the only thing I would say to counter that a little bit is that even the last several weeks, that offense really hasn't looked like it was in the very first few weeks of the season because of the injuries. And I think it's the first game in 3 weeks that all 3 receivers were together. So honestly, I don't think you would have gotten that much more of a output from them unless Pollard was there.
Well, yeah, and I think these TV guys, throw around labels way too easy. This is the best offense in football, and how are you measuring that? Greg Olson. What you're measuring that off is probably total yards, because I think they're number 1 in total yards, or were. But that's not totally accurate measure of best necessarily. And the truth is what Dave said, which is they were really good early in the year, and that was when Elliott and Pollard were really rolling, both of them. And after Dak Prescott got hurt, went out, and those 2 running backs never looked the same again, and they've been struggling ever since. Mm-hmm. And they kind of struggled today. They only had 323 total yards of offense and scored 20 points. And that's not anybody's best, no matter how many yards they have.
Yeah, it's rough, man. All right, do we want to do game balls and get out of here?
We have to do game balls.
Yes. Steve, who's walking the game ball over the Cowboys locker room?
No. Dave is our guest. Dave needs to go first.
Okay. Dave, who are you giving game balls to on offense?
Throw him to the fire in this.
Well, I'll start off on defense. I'll give it to Cole Holcomb on that pick 6.
Take the easy one first. That's a good rookie move. All right, like that's game ball 101 there. Take the easy play first.
And as far as offense, I tell you what, that's tough. There isn't a single lineman that deserves it either. Yeah, I'm walking my yes. I'm trying to think this one out right now.
Right.
That's why I wanted you to.
Take
I
us through
want
your
to put you on the
process.
spot and
Take
see
us
how
through your
fast.
process.
Want to see how fast you were on your feet.
I'll tell you what. I'll give it to I'll give it to Jared Patterson. I thought
Okay.
he made the most of his opportunity. Now, granted, I know Dallas is playing a little bit off. Playing a little more of a prevent, but he did pretty well recognizing the holes and just getting his head down and moving forward. I like Patterson. I think he has a little something to offer to this team, not as a starter, but so I'll go Patterson. Probably not the popular choice, I know, but he's a little guy like me, so why not?
Okay.
He'll appreciate some hardware on his mantle,
Sure.
even if it's a pretend useless bit of hardware.
There you go.
All right.
Steve, you want to go last, or you want me to go? What do you
You're
want?
the driving the bus, man. You tell
All
me.
right, all right.
Supposed to be the
Fine.
host.
You get to go last. I'm gonna give
Okay.
you more time.
I already know what I'm gonna do.
Oh, you already know what you're gonna do.
It's too late now. You got to go. It's too late.
All right. I'm gonna go. All right, I'm with you on Cole Holcomb. I think that's the obvious pick on this defense. We don't get many pick sixes, so you do that, you get a little game ball to put on your imaginary mantle, because it's an imaginary game
Well, he
ball.
probably has a mantle. It's the award that's imaginary, not the mantle.
I don't know what Cole Holcomb has. I don't know where he's living. Is he in a condo? Is he living in a barn?
Trailer? Who doesn't have a mantle of some type?
Dude has a mullet. He could be living in a pickup truck for all we know.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
All right. On offense, it is a
fell
tough
out of
one.
Ozark or something with that haircut.
Right. He would fit in anywhere with the hair. I'll just do the easy one. Cam Sims. That big touchdown catch was, I've always had a little soft spot for Cam Sims, so he's gonna get it because he had a nice day.
Okay, so
that's why I saved Cam Sims for you, by the way.
Because I have a soft spot for him.
Yes.
Everyone knows I got a little Cam Sims trophy in my back closet somewhere.
It's nothing like your man love for Meta-Ionitis.
That's true.
You haven't gushed over him in a while. I think maybe he broke up.
He hasn't had a good year. Let's be honest.
So Micah Parsons deserves the defensive game ball. I'm sorry, but he does. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have Taylor Heineke
limp over
with no help, no crutches, no assistance. He needs to limp over to Dallas's locker room and get down on one knee and present it to him, with hands and head bowed, and present him.
Having him bend the knee, huh?
Yes.
With his very, very green jerseys.
Yes. I mean,
green pants. Yeah.
He's used to looking at the ground anyway today, so he can do it again. And so Micah Parsons gets the defensive game ball, and on offense, Cam Sims is the only one who did anything worth a darn. So, that I'm a big Cam. I think everybody knows I'm a big Cam Simpson, but that catch in the end zone,
yeah,
amazing catch. It's a crappy call, by the officials to not see that was obviously a touchdown.
If and when Cam Sim is finally retired, we're gonna try and get him to be like a regular on this show. I think that's the secret plan here.
Well, we kind of had him sort of on the website, because you guys remember we had a dad come to us who had somehow, I can't remember his name, but somehow the Redskins PR stats, like a year ago, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's like for a school project or so. I can't remember what there was some reason for it, but they let this man's son, who was like 12 or something, interview Cam Sims. And he said, he came to us and said, I really want to get it published somewhere, anywhere, doesn't matter. And so we published his interview. It's actually a pretty decent interview.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a good moment.
Yeah, it was. Nice moment.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Cam's a good dude. So
Cam Sims, I think, deserved an offensive game ball for the catch. But I mean, Micah Parsons, yeah. Sorry, you have the defensive game ball.
Yeah.
On bended knee from Taylor Heineke. I don't care if he has a concussion or whatever. You got to limp over there and you got to present it to him. Figure it out, man.
Yeah. Micah Parsons is just going to frustrate us for like 10 years now. That's the worst part of this. All right, guys. I think that wraps this show up. We will talk to you next week. Eagles coming up. So that's basically a game, whoever gets the wild card, So this is the playoffs.
Yeah, they're a
So
bit of a train wreck too, so that ought to be good.
they are.
Right here in the middle of it all.
Yeah, I was listening to Philly Sports Talk Radio as I was driving up and down the highway, and all they were doing was gushing over the Cowboys the whole time. It was really annoying.
I'm surprised Dave hadn't been murdered. Being up in Philadelphia, those people up there are that. I mean, I really think that the people of Philadelphia who live in the city of Philadelphia, besides Dave, are really just sort of truly Satan's stepchildren. They're not even Satan's children; they're Satan's stepchildren. And they're just bad, bad, bad human beings.
I
They
mean,
really are.
Steve, you remember I've told you this off the air, and I may have said it on the air. When I was at Temple for 4 years, our favorite nighttime game was Name That Gunfire. Like
Yeah.
it was. Oh, that's a pistol. That sounds like a 22. That sounds like a 45. Oh shit, that was a semi-automatic
Duck.
rifle. Let's get inside, guys.
It's so hard. It's so hard to defend sometimes because just in the last month, just outside of Temple University alone, we've got them having 3 carjackings.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
Oh, I could tell you some crazy stories from when I was up there.
How much money did you get from your carjackings?
None. They're all hoopties when I was doing it.
I was asking Dave. Hopefully it was financially worthwhile for you if you're going to go through that.
yeah, right.
And if you're going to jack somebody, make sure it's an Eagles fan.
Yeah, right. Actually,
They don't have money.
I've been seeking out the Cowboy fans this past week, so they've been a little bit cockroaches. So
That's not a bad idea.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.